The Crimson Fleet's ultimatum. The communication chamber aboard the flagship Devourer hummed with the low frequency that all Zephyrian vessels maintained to remind their crews of the predatory heartbeat. Warmaster Vexthul stood before the holographic display showing the small human colony below, his four clawed hands clasped behind his armored back. The orders from High Command were clear: complete subjugation or total annihilation. No exceptions, no negotiations. Yet something felt different about this assignment. Captain Marcus Kane appeared on the transmission screen, standing calmly in what appeared to be a modest administrative office. The human looked unremarkable by any galactic standard. Average height, graying hair, simple clothing that bore no ceremonial significance. Everything about him suggested weakness, prey animal vulnerability that should have triggered Vexthul's hunting instincts immediately. Instead, the Warmaster found himself studying the human's eyes with unexpected interest. "I am Warmaster, Vexthul of the Crimson Fleet," he announced, following standard protocol. "Your species has been designated for Imperial integration. You will surrender all military assets, submit your population for processing, and transfer planetary control to Zephyrian administration. Compliance is mandatory." Marcus Kane nodded thoughtfully, as if considering a routine business proposal. "I appreciate you taking the time to visit us personally, Warmaster. That shows respect. However, I'm afraid we must respectfully decline your offer." The response should have triggered immediate rage in any Zephyrian commander. Defiance from prey species was intolerable, requiring swift and overwhelming retaliation. Vexthul waited for the familiar surge of predatory fury that had driven him through 3 centuries of conquest. It never came. Instead, he felt something unprecedented. Curiosity. "Human, perhaps you misunderstand the nature of this communication," Vexthul said, his voice carrying less menace than protocol demanded. "This is not a negotiation. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 23 star systems. Your compliance is not requested. It is commanded." Marcus stepped closer to his own display, and Vexthul noticed the human's posture showed no fear, no submission, no recognition of the vast power differential between them. "Warmaster, may I ask you something? In all those conquests, how many species looked you in the eye and said no?" The question struck Vexthul like a physical blow. In his long career, he had received surrender, terror, desperate bargaining, even brave final speeches from doomed defenders. But simple, calm refusal delivered without fear or bravado was entirely outside his experience. "None," he admitted before he could stop himself. "Rational beings understand the futility of resistance." "Exactly," Marcus smiled, and something in that expression made Vexthul's ancient instincts whisper warnings he had never heard before. "You've never actually fought a war, have you? You've conducted occupation operations. Very different things." Deep in Vexthul's mind, something that had remained dormant for centuries began to stir. His species had evolved as apex predators, but they had also evolved as hunters who respected worthy prey. The greatest Zephyrian warriors of legend had not simply slaughtered the weak. They had faced creatures that could challenge them, defeat them, teach them. When had he last felt challenged? "Your species lacks natural weapons, armor, or advanced technology," Vexthul stated, though his voice lacked the crushing certainty that should have accompanied such an assessment. "Mathematical analysis indicates complete human extinction within 72 hours. Marcus laughed, a sound completely devoid of hysteria or false bravado. "Mathematics. Warmaster, let me tell you what your analysis missed. Every species you've conquered had something they were trying to preserve. We're different. When you threaten everything we care about, we don't try to save it. We weaponize it." The human's eyes met Vexthul's directly through the holographic connection, and for the first time in his military career, the Warmaster felt something he had never experienced when facing a prey species: recognition of an equal. "We survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, and predators that would terrify your warriors," Marcus continued. "Not because we were stronger, but because we never learned how to give up. Every human who ever lived passed down one simple truth. When someone tries to destroy everything you love, you make them pay a price they can't afford. Vexthul's claws unconsciously extended, but not in threat display. His predatory instincts were responding to the presence of something they had never encountered, a creature that refused to acknowledge the natural order of hunter and prey. You would choose extinction over integration? Vexthul asked and realized his voice carried genuine confusion rather than intimidation. We would choose war over slavery, Marcus replied with absolute certainty. Every single time, because that's what it means to be human. Behind Vexthul, his communications officer, Lieutenant Kethvar, shifted nervously. War Master, High Command expects confirmation of surrender within the hour. Shall I prepare the orbital bombardment coordinates? For the first time in 3 centuries of military service, War Master Vexthul hesitated before following direct orders from High Command. Something about this ordinary human standing in his simple office had awakened questions that no Zephyrian warrior should ever ask. What if strength wasn't measured by claws and fangs? What if there were different kinds of predators in the galaxy? What if he had been hunting prey his entire career, and was only now meeting something that could hunt him back? War Master? Lieutenant Kethvar pressed. Your orders? Vexthul looked once more at Captain Marcus Kane, seeing something in the human's expression that made his predatory soul recognize kinship for the first time in his life. This was not prey. This was not a victim. This was something else entirely. Prepare landing forces, Vexthul ordered, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty that his crew had never heard before. But hold orbital bombardment in reserve. Sir? Kethvar's confusion was evident. Standard protocol requires immediate orbital strikes following refusal to surrender. War Master Vexthul stared at the human colony below, feeling the first cracks forming in a lifetime of absolute certainty about the natural order of the universe. Lieutenant, I believe we may be dealing with something that our protocols never anticipated. The transmission ended, leaving both commanders to prepare for a conflict that would challenge everything they thought they knew about war, honor, and what it truly meant to be apex predators in a galaxy full of surprises. Deep in his warrior's heart, Vexthul felt something he had never experienced before, doubt about whether he was the hunter or the hunted. The art of human warfare. The first Zephyrian assault craft touched down on the outskirts of New Haven Colony, as dawn broke across Kepler 442b. War Master Vexthul watched from the command deck of the Devourer as his elite shock troops deployed in perfect formation. These were warriors bred for conquest, each standing 8 feet tall with natural armor that could deflect small arms fire and claws capable of tearing through steel plating. Lieutenant Kethvar approached with tactical displays showing the colony's defensive positions. War Master, our sensors detect minimal military infrastructure. Standard defensive barriers, basic energy weapons, approximately 200 armed colonists. Resistance should be eliminated within 3 hours. Vexthul studied the readings, but something about the human positions troubled him. After 3 centuries of conquest, he had developed an instinct for recognizing defensive strategies. The humans had positioned their forces in what appeared to be tactically unsound locations, clustering around civilian areas rather than establishing proper military choke points. Curious, he murmured. Either they are incompetent, or they understand something about warfare that we do not. The communication channel crackled with reports from the ground forces. First wave advancing on primary objectives, no resistance encountered, proceeding to secure administrative complex. Vexthul's unease grew. In every previous conquest, defending forces had either fought desperately at their strongest positions or surrendered immediately upon seeing Zephyrian warriors. This eerie quiet suggested neither response. Suddenly, explosions erupted across the tactical display as hidden charges detonated beneath the advancing shock troops. But these were not standard military explosives. They appeared to be improvised devices using agricultural equipment, mining tools, and construction materials. The blasts were precisely timed and positioned to create maximum confusion rather than maximum casualties. Report, Vexthul demanded. Sir, We've encountered booby traps throughout the colony. Primitive but effective. First squad has taken casualties, but not from enemy fire. The charges seem designed to separate and disorient our forces rather than destroy them outright. Lieutenant James Rivera's voice came through the communication system, broadcast on all Zephyrian frequencies. War Master Vexthul, this is Lieutenant Rivera of the New Haven Defense Force. Welcome to human warfare. Hope you packed extra supplies because this is going to take a while. Vexthul activated his personal communicator. Human, your tactics are unconventional but ineffective. My forces will adapt to your primitive traps within the hour. Rivera's response carried the same unsettling confidence that Captain Kane had displayed. War Master, you're thinking like a predator. You expect us to fight you the way a cornered animal fights, all claws and desperation. But we're not cornered animals. We're problem solvers. The tactical display updated as Vexthul's forces regrouped and advanced more cautiously. They reached the colony's main square without encountering any human defenders. The streets were empty, buildings appeared abandoned, and the silence was oppressive. Where are they? Kethvar asked, studying the sensor readings. Our thermal scans show no concentrated heat signatures. It's as if the entire population simply vanished. That was when the real harassment began. A single shot rang out from a building 3 blocks away, striking the helmet of a Zephyrian warrior. The projectile was too small to penetrate his armor, but the impact was precisely calculated to crack his visor and impair his vision. Before the squad could locate the shooter, the sniper had vanished. 2 minutes later, another shot from a completely different location disabled the communications array of an assault vehicle. Then a third shot punctured the fuel cell of a supply drone, causing it to crash harmlessly but expensively into a fountain. They're not trying to kill us, Vexthul realized with growing alarm. They're trying to blind us, isolate us, and waste our resources. Lieutenant Rivera's voice returned. Starting to understand, War Master? Your warriors are magnificent killing machines, but they're not designed for this kind of conflict. Every shot we take costs us a few credits worth of ammunition. Every shot you take to retaliate costs you 1,000 credits worth of ordnance. The psychological warfare was even more effective than the physical harassment. Zephyrian warriors were apex predators, accustomed to dominating their environment through superior strength and ferocity. Being picked apart by an invisible enemy they couldn't locate or engage directly was outside their evolutionary programming. Sir, reported squad leader Vorthak, the troops are becoming frustrated. They're requesting permission to level the entire colony and flush out the humans. Vexthul considered the request, knowing it would satisfy his warriors' need for decisive action. But something held him back. High Command had specifically ordered the colony's resources to be preserved for Imperial use. More importantly, something about the human tactics was genuinely impressing him in a way he had never experienced before. Negative, he ordered. Continue systematic sweep. Adapt to their methods. But adaptation proved impossible when the enemy refused to follow any recognizable pattern. The humans struck from sewers, abandoned buildings, concealed positions in agricultural domes, and locations that sensors indicated were empty moments before. They used mirrors to redirect weapon fire, created false heat signatures to confuse thermal detection, and somehow coordinated their attacks without using any communications technology the Zephyrians could detect. By midday, Vexthul's forces had advanced less than 2 miles into the colony and had suffered 37 casualties, none fatal, but all requiring medical attention or equipment replacement. The humans had revealed themselves only long enough to take their shots, then vanished like ghosts. This is impossible, Kethvar muttered, studying the tactical reports. Our warriors are superior in every measurable category. Strength, speed, armor, weaponry, technology. How are they being outmaneuvered by primitives? Vexthul watched another perfectly executed ambush on his display, noting how the humans used their environment as a weapon rather than simply fighting within it. Because we are not fighting humans, Lieutenant. We are fighting human ingenuity. Captain Kane's voice joined the communication network. War Master, I wanted to check how your forces are adapting to our welcome party. Ready to discuss terms? Yet, your resistance is admirable but futile, Vexthul replied, though his voice lacked the conviction it should have carried. We will adapt to your tactics. Will you? Kane asked with genuine curiosity. Because we've been studying your species for the past 6 months, ever since we detected your fleet approaching. We know how Zephyrians fight. Direct assault, overwhelming force, intimidation through superior firepower. It's worked perfectly against every species you've encountered. Vexthul felt his predatory instincts sharpening, recognizing a challenge to his understanding of warfare itself. And your point, human? My point is that you've never faced an enemy that studied you first. Every human in this colony knows your warrior's capabilities, your equipment specifications, your tactical preferences, and your psychological weaknesses. We've spent months preparing for this exact scenario. The revelation struck Vexthul like a physical blow. Impossible. Our approach was classified until we entered your system. War Master, humans survived by being the galaxy's best pattern recognition specialists. We've analyzed every Zephyrian conquest for the past century. Your tactics haven't changed because they've never needed to. Until now. Lieutenant Rivera's voice added, Every shot we've taken today was planned weeks ago. Every position we've used was prepared and tested. Every move your forces have made was predicted and countered before you even landed. Vexthul stared at the tactical display, seeing his supposedly superior forces being systematically dismantled by creatures that should have been easy prey. For the first time in his military career, he was facing an enemy that had done something no other species had ever attempted. They had made him and his warriors the subjects of study rather than the agents of conquest. Sir, Kethvar reported quietly, the troops are requesting immediate orbital bombardment. They believe ground conquest may be impossible. War Master Vexthul looked at the colony below, where ordinary humans were teaching the galaxy's apex predators that intelligence could triumph over strength, preparation could defeat superior firepower, and sometimes the hunter became the hunted. Maintain ground operations, he ordered, his voice carrying a note of something unprecedented. Respect for an enemy. I want to see what else they can teach us. Deep in his warrior's heart, Vexthul began to understand that he might be witnessing the birth of a new kind of warfare, one where the greatest weapon was not claws or fangs but the relentless human refusal to accept defeat. When hunters become hunted, the third day of the siege brought something War Master Vexthul had never experienced in 3 centuries of conquest, the sound of his own warriors expressing doubt. In the command briefing room aboard the Devourer, his senior officers gathered around holographic displays showing casualty reports, equipment losses, and tactical failures that should have been impossible. 68 warriors wounded, 15 vehicles disabled, and we have advanced exactly 4.7 miles in 72 hours. Reported squad leader Vorthak, his scarred face betraying frustration that bordered on humiliation. At this rate, complete pacification will require 6 months. Lieutenant Kethvar pulled up strategic analyses on the main display. War Master, the humans have cost us more resources in 3 days than the last 5 conquests combined. Hi. Command is beginning to ask questions about our operational efficiency. Vexthul studied the reports with growing fascination rather than frustration. Every human action demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that challenged everything he understood about warfare. They had turned the entire colony into a 3-dimensional puzzle, where every movement by Zephyrian forces triggered carefully planned responses. Show me the pattern analysis, Vexthul ordered. The display shifted to reveal something that made even experienced Zephyrian tacticians uncomfortable. The humans weren't simply reacting to attacks, they were conducting a masterclass in psychological warfare. Every ambush was designed not just to inflict casualties, but to create specific emotional responses in Zephyrian warriors. They're hunting us, Vexthul realized with something approaching admiration. Not for resources or territory, but for our confidence. As if summoned by his words, Engineer Zoe Martinez's voice crackled through the communication system. Her tone carried the same unsettling confidence that seemed to characterize all human defenders. War Master Vexthul, this is Chief Engineer Martinez. I wanted to personally thank your warriors for field testing our new defensive innovations. Vexthul activated his communicator with growing curiosity. Human, what innovations do you reference? Well, for starters, your warrior's natural armor is impressive, but it has one critical weakness. It's designed to deflect direct impacts, not absorb sustained vibrations. So we developed sonic disruptors using repurposed mining equipment. Non-lethal, but very effective at causing disorientation and nausea. The War Master's claws extended involuntarily as he realized the implications. You have been experimenting on my warriors? Zoe's laugh carried genuine amusement rather than malice. War Master, we've been learning from them. Every encounter teaches us more about Zephyrian physiology, psychology, and tactical preferences. Your people are fascinating subjects for behavioral analysis. The concept was so alien to Zephyrian thinking that Vexthul struggled to process it. In every previous conquest, the enemy had focused on survival, preservation, or desperate last stands. These humans were treating warfare as an educational opportunity, studying their attackers with scientific detachment while simultaneously defeating them. Sir, Lieutenant Kethavar interrupted, we're receiving priority communication from High Command. The holographic display activated, revealing Grand Admiral Thexmore, Supreme Commander of Zephyrian military forces. His massive form dominated the transmission, 4 arms crossed in a gesture of barely contained rage. War Master Vexthul, explain why a single human colony has required 3 days to pacify. Vexthul felt the familiar weight of Imperial authority, but something had changed in his response to it. Grand Admiral, the humans are employing unconventional tactics that require adaptive strategies. Unconventional? Thexmore's voice carried the dangerous edge that preceded executions for military failure. They are prey animals with primitive weapons. You command the Crimson Fleet, the most successful conquest force in Imperial history. There should be no adaptation required. With respect, Grand Admiral, these humans are unlike any species we have previously encountered. They are not attempting to preserve their colony or minimize casualties. They are conducting active warfare designed to maximize our resource expenditure while studying our capabilities. The Grand Admiral's predatory eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that primitives are superior to Zephyrian military doctrine? The question hung in the air like a blade poised to fall. Vexthul realized that his answer would determine not just his career, but his fundamental understanding of strength, honor, and what it meant to be a warrior. For 3 centuries, he had never questioned the absolute supremacy of Zephyrian military power. I am suggesting, Vexthul said carefully, that we may have encountered something unprecedented. Grand Admiral Thexmore leaned forward, his massive form radiating menace. War Master, you have 12 hours to achieve complete pacification, or I will personally relieve you of command and order orbital bombardment of the entire system. The Empire's reputation cannot tolerate extended resistance from prey species. The transmission ended, leaving Vexthul alone with the weight of an impossible choice. Follow orders and destroy something remarkable, or continue to defy doctrine for reasons he was only beginning to understand. Captain Kane's voice joined the communication network as if he had been listening to the entire exchange. War Master, that sounded like an ultimatum from your superiors. Are you prepared to follow those orders? Human, why do you persist in this resistance? Your species could serve the Empire with honor. Integration offers survival and purpose. Integration offers slavery, Kane replied with absolute certainty. War Master, let me ask you something. In all your conquests, have you ever encountered a species that made you question whether conquest was the right choice? The question struck at the heart of Vexthul's growing internal conflict. What do you mean? I mean, have you ever met people who impressed you enough that you wondered if maybe they deserved to remain free? If maybe the galaxy would be better, with their unique perspective preserved rather than absorbed? Vexthul found himself unable to answer immediately. Every fiber of his predatory instincts screamed that strength determined order, that the powerful had the right to rule the weak. But watching the humans fight had awakened something else. Recognition that different kinds of strength existed, and perhaps the galaxy was large enough for multiple apex species. Engineer Martinez's voice returned to the communication channel. Warmaster, we've been monitoring your fleet's communications. We know about the 12-hour deadline. We also know you're facing a choice between following orders and following your instincts. My instincts tell me to crush resistance and establish dominance, Vexthul replied, though his voice lacked conviction. Do they? Kane asked quietly. Because from our perspective, your instincts have been telling you to learn from us, to adapt your thinking, to question assumptions you've never questioned before. Those sound like the instincts of a warrior who has found worthy opponents, not prey to be slaughtered. Lieutenant Rivera joined the conversation. Warmaster, we have a proposition. Give us 6 more hours to demonstrate something that might change how you think about strength, honor, and what it means to be truly apex predators. What demonstration? We want to show you what happens when humans stop playing defense and start playing offense. Not against your warriors, but alongside them, against a threat that could destroy both our species. Vexthul's predatory mind. First, in what threat? Long-range sensors detected it 3 days ago, Kane explained. A Devour-class asteroid, probably thrown off course by the gravitational disruption your fleet caused entering the system. Impact with Kepler 442b in approximately 18 hours, large enough to sterilize the planet. The tactical display updated automatically, showing the incoming celestial body. Vexthul's officers confirmed the readings with growing alarm. Sir, the humans are correct. Impact is inevitable unless we take immediate action. Engineer Martinez's voice carried renewed urgency. Warmaster, your fleet has the firepower to deflect the asteroid, but not the precision targeting systems to guarantee success. We have the computational capabilities and sensor networks, but not the weapons to effect a course change. Vexthul stared at the display, realizing that the humans had just presented him with something unprecedented, an opportunity to see what cooperation might accomplish that conquest never could. You are proposing an alliance? He asked, his voice carrying wonder at the concept. We're proposing a test, Kane replied. 12 hours working together to save both our peoples, followed by an honest conversation about whether the galaxy might be better served by cooperation than conquest. Warmaster Vexthul looked at his officers, seeing in their expressions the same uncertainty he felt. They were warriors bred for dominance, but they were also intelligent beings capable of recognizing when old assumptions might need revision. Lieutenant Kethvar, he ordered, prepare coordination protocols with human technical teams. Squad leader Vorthak, recall all ground forces to defensive positions around the colony. Sir? Kethvar's confusion was evident. Are we abandoning the conquest? Vexthul gazed at the approaching asteroid, then at the human colony that had taught him more about warfare in 3 days than 3 centuries of victory had managed. No, Lieutenant, we are learning what it means to be truly apex predators in a galaxy full of equals. For the first time in his military career, Warmaster Vexthul was about to discover whether cooperation could achieve what conquest never had: the preservation of something genuinely worth saving. The Predator's Dilemma, the asteroid deflection. Operation began at dawn, and Warmaster Vexthul found himself experiencing something no Zephyrian commander had ever encountered: genuine partnership with a prey species. The bridge of the Devourer had been transformed into a joint command center, with human technicians working alongside Zephyrian officers in unprecedented cooperation. Engineer Zoe Martinez stood beside the main tactical display, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces with a precision that impressed even Vexthul's veteran crew. Warmaster, we've calculated 17 possible deflection vectors, but only 3 have acceptable probability margins for success. Lieutenant Rivera coordinated with Zephyrian weapons officers, his calm professionalism earning grudging respect from warriors who had initially dismissed him as inferior prey. Your plasma cannons have the raw power we need, but the targeting has to be absolutely perfect, miss by even 0.03 degrees, and we turn one extinction-level event into 1,000 smaller impacts. Vexthul watched the coordination with growing amazement. His warriors, bred for dominance and individual supremacy, were learning to function as part of a larger organism that included human intelligence and creativity. The result was something neither species could have achieved alone. Deflection window opens in 4 hours. Captain Kane reported from the colony's coordination center. War Master, your fleet will need to maintain perfect formation while adjusting for gravitational variables that change every 17 minutes. My crews are prepared, Vexthul replied, though privately he marveled at the complexity of calculations the humans had provided. No Zephyrian computer system could have performed such precise orbital mechanics in real time. The cooperation was succeeding beyond all expectations when the communication alert that Vexthul had been dreading finally arrived. Grand Admiral Thexmore's image appeared on the priority channel, his massive form radiating the cold fury of absolute authority. War Master Vexthul, reconnaissance drones report your forces operating in coordination with human colonists. Explain this violation of Conquest Protocol immediately. Vexthul felt every eye on the bridge turned toward him. His Zephyrian officers waited for him to restore proper Imperial order, while the human technicians paused in their work, uncertain whether the cooperation would continue. The weight of 3 centuries of military doctrine pressed against his growing conviction that something fundamental had changed. Grand Admiral, we are addressing an immediate threat to both our forces and the colonial population, Vexthul replied carefully. The threat is irrelevant, Thexmore snarled. Imperial doctrine is absolute. Prey species exist to serve or be eliminated. Cooperation implies equality, and equality with primitives is an insult to every Zephyrian warrior who has died expanding the Empire. Engineer Martinez stepped forward, her voice carrying respectful but unwavering determination. Grand Admiral, with respect, we're about to save both our peoples from extinction. Doesn't that matter more than protocol? The silence that followed was deafening. No prey species had ever addressed a Zephyrian Grand Admiral directly, much less questioned Imperial policy. Thexmore's predatory eyes fixed on Martinez with lethal intent. Did that creature just speak to me without permission? Thexmore asked, his voice dropping to the dangerous whisper that preceded executions. Vexthul felt the moment crystallizing around him like a blade finding its target. Everything he had been trained to believe demanded that he immediately discipline Martinez for her breach of protocol. Every instinct bred into him over millennia of evolution screamed that hierarchy must be maintained. Instead, he stepped protectively in front of the human engineer. Grand Admiral, Engineer Martinez is addressing a superior officer with information relevant to fleet survival. Her input has been invaluable to this operation. Her input? Thexmore's voice rose to a roar that made the bridge's metal structure vibrate. War Master, you will immediately cease all cooperation with prey species and resume conquest operations. The asteroid is irrelevant. Imperial reputation requires the complete subjugation of this colony within the next 6 hours. Captain Kane's voice joined the communication from the colony. Grand Admiral, if I may, the asteroid will kill everyone on this planet, including your fleet if you remain in orbit. Imperial reputation won't matter much if there's no empire left. To have a reputation. Thexmore's forearms extended in the ultimate gesture of predatory rage. War Master Vexthul, you will order your weapons officers to fire on the human who just spoke. Then you will resume conquest operations immediately. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the soft beeping of targeting systems awaiting orders. Vexthul looked at the tactical display showing the approaching asteroid, then at the human technicians who had spent hours working to save both their species, then at his own officers who waited for him to choose between duty and conscience. No, Vexthul said quietly. What did you say? Thexmore's voice carried deadly disbelief. I said no, Grand Admiral. Vexthul's voice grew stronger with each word. These humans have shown me something I have never seen in 3 centuries of conquest. They have shown me what it means to fight for something greater than dominance. Lieutenant Kethvar stepped forward, his hand moving toward his sidearm in preparation to relieve his commanding officer of duty. War Master, you are violating direct orders from High Command. Vexthul turned to face his lieutenant, and something in his expression made the younger Zephyrian freeze. Lieutenant, in 3 centuries of military service, what is the greatest victory you have ever witnessed? Sir? I have seen 23 worlds surrender in terror at our approach. I have watched entire species kneel before Zephyrian might. I believed that was the pinnacle of military achievement. Vexthul gestured toward the humans working at their stations. But these creatures have shown me something greater. They have shown me what it looks like when a species fights not to dominate others, but to preserve something worth saving. Engineer Martinez looked up from her calculations. War Master, deflection window opens in 90 minutes. If we're going to save both our peoples, we need your decision now. Grand Admiral Thexmore's image loomed on the display. War Master Vexthul, you have 30 seconds to resume standard conquest operations, or I will personally lead a fleet to destroy your ship and assume command of this operation. Vexthul looked at the asteroid trajectory, at the humans who had trusted him enough to work alongside his warriors, at his own crew who were learning what cooperation could accomplish. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to choose honor over obedience. Grand Admiral Thexmore, I formally refuse your orders. The Crimson Fleet will complete the asteroid deflection operation in cooperation with human colonial forces. The communication channel exploded with the sounds of chaos from the Imperial Command Center. You dare defy the Zephyrian Empire? You dare choose prey animals over your own species? I choose intelligence over ignorance, Vexthul replied with absolute certainty. I choose cooperation over domination. I choose to learn from a species that has taught me more about true strength in 4 days than the Empire taught me in 3 centuries. Thexmore's voice became a roar of predatory fury. War Master Vexthul, you are hereby stripped of rank and marked for execution. All Zephyrian vessels under your command are ordered to fire on the Devourer immediately. Lieutenant Kethavar looked around the bridge, seeing his fellow officers frozen between loyalty to the Empire and respect for their commander. Sir, what are your orders? Vexthul activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice carrying across every ship in the Crimson Fleet. All vessels, this is War Master Vexthul. We face a choice that will define not just our careers but our understanding of what it means to be warriors. We can follow orders that lead to mutual destruction, or we can work with these remarkable humans to achieve something greater than conquest. Captain Kane's voice joined the communication. Zephyrian warriors, you've spent 4 days learning that there are different kinds of strength in this galaxy. We're asking you to help us prove that cooperation can achieve what domination never could. One by one, the responses came in from across the fleet. Ship commanders who had witnessed the unprecedented cooperation, weapons officers who had worked alongside human technicians, warriors who had begun to see their supposed prey as equals. The Ravager stands with War Master Vexthul. The Bloodfang confirms, we support the joint operation. The Nightmare agrees. These humans have earned our respect. As reports continued from across the fleet, Vexthul realized that something historic was happening. For the first time in Zephyrian history, an entire battle group was choosing conscience over command, cooperation over conquest. Deflection. Operation commencing in 60 minutes, Engineer Martinez announced. All ships to assigned coordinates. Let's save 2 worlds and maybe change the galaxy while we're at it. War Master Vexthul looked at the tactical display showing Zephyrian and human forces working in perfect coordination, preparing to achieve something neither could accomplish alone. He had defied his empire, risked his life, and chosen to trust a species he had been sent to conquer. For the first time in his military career, he felt like a true warrior. The day predators knelt, the asteroid deflection operation succeeded with a precision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. As the massive celestial body shifted course and sailed harmlessly past Kepler 442b, War Master Vexthul stood on the bridge of the Devourer watching something unprecedented unfold across his fleet's communication channels. Zephyrian warriors cheering alongside human colonists in celebration of their mutual survival. Engineer Zoe Martinez wiped exhaustion from her face as she powered down the targeting computers. War Master, deflection confirmed. The asteroid will miss the planet by over 2 million kilometers. Both our peoples are safe. Captain Kane's image appeared on the main display, his expression carrying profound relief mixed with something deeper. War Master Vexthul, What we accomplish today changes everything, not just for our two species, but for how the galaxy understands strength and cooperation. Vexthul nodded, but his satisfaction was tempered by the knowledge of what was coming. Long-range sensors had detected the approach of Grand Admiral Thexmore's punishment fleet, 15 of the Empire's most powerful warships dispatched to destroy the Devourer and restore Imperial order through overwhelming force. Captain Kane, I must inform you that our cooperation has consequences. High Command is sending a fleet to eliminate me and resume conquest operations. In 12 hours, this system will face bombardment that neither of our forces can resist. Lieutenant, Kethavar approached with tactical displays showing the incoming Imperial fleet. War Master, Grand Admiral Thexmore's force includes 3 Devastator-class dreadnoughts. Even with human assistance, we cannot achieve victory through conventional means. Then we don't fight conventionally, Captain Kane replied, his voice carrying the same innovative thinking that had defined human resistance from the beginning. War Master, we have a proposal that might sound impossible, but then again, so did everything else we've accomplished together. Vexthul leaned forward, with growing interest. What do you propose? Engineer Martinez joined the communication. We propose that you do something no Zephyrian has ever done in recorded history. We propose that you surrender to us. The suggestion was so alien to Zephyrian thinking that Vexthul's officers recoiled in shock. Lieutenant Kethavar's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. Sir, they ask you to commit the ultimate dishonor for a Zephyrian warrior. Do they? Vexthul asked quietly, his predatory mind working through implications that his training had never prepared him to consider. Or do they ask me to demonstrate a different kind of strength? Lieutenant Rivera's voice joined the communication. War Master, in human culture, true leaders sometimes make sacrifices that others cannot understand. They choose humility over pride when it serves a greater purpose. Captain Kane continued the explanation. When Grand Admiral Thexmore arrives, he expects to find either a conquered human colony or destroyed rebel forces. Instead, he'll find something that challenges every assumption about dominance and submission in the galaxy. What exactly are you asking me to do? Vexthul inquired, though something in his warrior's heart already understood. We're asking you to kneel, Kane said simply. Not in defeat, but in recognition of partnership. Not as surrender, but as a symbol that apex predators can choose cooperation over conquest. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant sounds of celebration from crews throughout the fleet. Vexthul looked at his officers, seeing in their expressions the same internal conflict he had wrestled with for days. Everything in their evolutionary programming screamed that kneeling was submission, weakness, the abandonment of everything that made them Zephyrian. And what would this gesture accomplish? Vexthul asked. Engineer Martinez pulled up holographic displays showing communication networks throughout the galaxy. War Master, news of our cooperation has already spread across 17 star systems. Species that have lived in fear of Zephyrian conquest for centuries are watching to see what happens next. If the galaxy sees a Zephyrian War Master choosing partnership over domination, Captain Kane explained, it changes the fundamental equation of power. It proves that strength can serve creation rather than destruction. Lieutenant Rivera added, War Master, you've spent 4 days learning that humans measure strength differently than most species. We see true power in the ability to choose. Mercy over vengeance, cooperation over conquest, wisdom over force. Vexthul walked to the viewport, gazing down at the human colony that had taught him more about warfare and honor than 3 centuries of victory. Below, he could see Zephyrian warriors working alongside human technicians to repair equipment damaged during the siege. Natural enemies had become allies through mutual respect and shared purpose. Sir, Lieutenant Kethavar said quietly, if you kneel to these humans, the Empire will brand you as the greatest traitor in Zephyrian history. Perhaps, Vexthul replied, or perhaps they will remember me as the warrior who discovered that there are victories greater than conquest. Captain Kane's voice carried profound understanding. War Master, we're not asking you to betray your nature as a predator. We're asking you to evolve into something greater. A predator who protects instead of destroys, who builds instead of conquers. The decision crystallized in Vexthul's mind with the clarity of a perfectly aimed weapon finding its target. He activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice carrying across every ship under his command. Warriors of the Crimson Fleet, today we face a choice that will define not just our careers, but our legacy in galactic history. We can fight to preserve an empire built on domination, or we can help birth something greater, a galaxy where different species work together as equals. One by one, responses came back from across the fleet. Ship commanders who had witnessed unprecedented cooperation, weapons officers who had learned to respect human ingenuity, warriors who had discovered that true strength sometimes meant choosing partnership over supremacy. The Ravager stands ready to follow your lead, War Master. The Bloodfang confirms we trust your judgment. All ships report ready to support whatever decision you make. Vexthul nodded, then activated his personal transport. Captain Kane, I request permission to come planetside. Permission granted, War Master. We'll be waiting. An hour later, War Master Vexthul stood in the central square of New Haven Colony, surrounded by hundreds of human colonists and dozens of his own warriors. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath as communication networks carried live transmissions of what was about to unfold. Captain Kane stepped forward, his expression carrying profound respect rather than triumph. War Master Vexthul, you have honored us with your presence and your partnership. What you've accomplished here proves that apex predators can choose to be guardians instead of conquerors. Engineer Martinez and Lieutenant Rivera flanked their captain, while Zephyrian officers stood beside their commander. Two species that should have been natural enemies had found common ground in mutual respect and shared purpose. Captain Kane, Vexthul said, his voice carrying across the square and throughout the galaxy via communication networks. Your species has taught me that true strength is not measured by the ability to destroy, but by the courage to create. You have shown me that the greatest victories are achieved not through conquest, but through cooperation. Slowly, deliberately, War Master. Vexthul lowered himself to one knee before Captain Kane and the assembled human colonists. The gesture sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy as apex predators everywhere watched their most successful war leader demonstrate a form of honor they had never imagined possible. I kneel not in defeat, Vexthul declared, but in recognition of equals. I kneel not as surrender, but as acknowledgement that there are different kinds of strength in this galaxy, and humanity has shown me the greatest of them all, the strength to choose cooperation over domination. Captain Kane extended his hand to help Vexthul rise, a gesture of partnership that would be remembered as the moment when galactic civilization began to evolve beyond conquest and subjugation. War Master, Kane said quietly, you honor us all. Today you've shown the galaxy that true apex predators are those who protect what is worth preserving. As Vexthul stood, alarms sounded across the colony's defense network. Grand Admiral Thexmore's punishment fleet had arrived, 15 dreadnoughts sliding into orbit with weapons charged and ready to restore Imperial order through annihilation. But something unprecedented happened. Across the galaxy, species that had lived in terror of Zephyrian conquest for centuries began transmitting messages of support for the War Master, who had chosen partnership over domination. Defense fleets from dozens of worlds began moving toward Kepler 442b, not to conquer, but to protect the alliance that represented hope for a different kind of future. War Master, Captain Kane observed as tactical displays showed approaching reinforcements. It appears your gesture has started something that neither of us anticipated. Vexthul looked at the displays showing ships from across the galaxy converging on their position. Humans and Zephyrians working together had sparked something unprecedented, a galactic alliance based on cooperation rather than conquest. Captain Kane, Vexthul replied, I believe we have just witnessed the birth of a new age, an age where apex predators choose to be guardians, where strength serves wisdom, and where the greatest victories are achieved not through conquest, but through the courage to kneel before what is truly worthy of respect. Above them, Grand Admiral Thexmore's fleet found itself facing not a rebel war master and primitive colony, but the first multi-species alliance in galactic history. The day when predators learned to kneel had become the day when the galaxy learned to stand together. The war was over. The future had begun.